reality of what it is. But there was some shock going on. I think obviously whenever anything like that happens, that's the reality of it. And then little by little, obviously, we were able to have conversations with our position groups, talk as a team, and then you could obviously be able to talk through some different things one-on-one.
You saw some players kind of take to social media and say, finish strong, kind of that message you were talking about.
Yeah.
How pleased did that make you, and just how they kind of, been resilient through these past 24 hours?
They've been awesome. Met with the leadership group this morning, met with a lot of them yesterday. I know our coaches have done a great job with our players, but they've been great. I mean, they were first to jump on the table and be like, Coach, we're going to finish this thing strong. We're going to do this together. And that's the group we got. That's the group of seniors we have. That's the mentality they have, that we are going to finish this strong for each other. We're going to finish this strong for Bronco Nation. We can't fix what's happened to this point. No different in life. Things happened before. All you can do is what's next. All we can do is go 1-0. And I know it might sound like I'm preaching at you guys, but that's the same message we talk about with our players. And all we can handle is the fact that we got Utah State this weekend. We got a great group of young men. We're going to prep. We're going to play fast. We're going to do it together. And we're going to finish it strong for our seniors. And that was my biggest thing talking to them. I know our coaches said the same thing, is we're going to finish this right for them. And it's not going to be, well, that year and then blah, 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 blah. We finished it strong for those guys. I mean, there's still a lot to play for. Bowl game opportunities, potential championship game. And our players deserve it. The work they put in. And so right now it's 1-0 mentality. We got Utah State at 5 o'clock in Logan, and we're fired up.
How much do you want to be a candidate here to be the full-time coach?
No, good question, BJ. Right now, you guys know me. I love this place. And why? Because I love the people. I love these kids. My family. Love it dearly. My number one focus is to finish it strong for these players. Whatever happens after that, I trust JD and the administration, the best interest for our players. For me, my only focus is to finish this season strong for our players and for this community. A community comes and packs out that house when we're 4 and 5 to play New Mexico. We're going to play for those. We're going to play for this community. This group in here loves each other, looks at each other, goes through the stuff we've been through, and still all day yesterday, this morning, calling me, texting me, Coach, we got your back. Let's finish this together. That's my number one focus. And I know from this staff, that's all we care about.
Do you have head coaching expectations, though, eventually, big picture for your career?
I do. I'm a firm believer that, 3 things that I focus on. This is me. This isn't Boise State. I focus on loving Jesus, working hard, treating people right. And I'm a big believer that if I do those and focus on that, then God's going to have that timing for me. When that time comes, I don't know, but I know when it comes, I'll be ready. And that's where my focus right now is to finish it strong for our players. I'm very excited for the opportunity because I love these kids. It's not about me. It's about them. Like I said, it's about those seniors that they've been through COVID together. They've been through all these times together. It's about them. And I told them if there's anything they need, and our coaches, our staff's done a great job keeping them together, that's our focus. Finish 2 weeks, and then let's look up and see where we're at. And so in regards to the head coaching job and vision, not concerned about that. My focus is about these players, and that's the only reason I coach anyway. It's not because the X's and O's on the board, the lines on the board. It's about them, and that's my number one focus. And I know that's our staff's number one focus, and I mean that, guys. That's not me giving you coach's speech. That's my heart, and I'm excited for our guys to finish strong.
Spencer, with you stepping up to be the interim head coach, will the structure of your staff change at all? Will you still be the defensive coordinator? Will you be on the sidelines?
Yep.
Will you call plays? And then who will be your elevated potential 10th assistant?
Yep. So right now I'm still going to call the defense. I'm going to do it from the field. And I can promise you I'm getting fired up on the field. So I told some players, watch out. I can maybe jump on you a little bit. Got to calm down. It's going to be raining, so I might be sliding around a little bit. But I will still, thought about for a little bit, I'll still be calling the plays. Obviously, our defensive staff's done a great job even last night, this morning, doing a lot of the breakdowns. We got a great defensive staff. They're going to do a great job. But I'm going to still call the plays, handle that the right way, just to keep consistency. And thinking about that's my biggest thing for the players is the consistency. So being on the field, being able to have those conversations with our players so we can keep things moving in that direction. As of right now, working on elevating Ron Collins to be able to be an on-the-field coach. We'll get him up in the box, and he'll do a great job. He's done a great job this season so far, so we're working through that. And so I'm excited to be back on the field around our boys.
What was that conversation with Ron like? I know that he has really enjoyed his role here, which is obviously more concise than a full-time coach.
Mm-hmm. I'll be honest with you, Jay, he beat me to the punch. I mean, he was ready for him. He's like, Spence, I know you're going to be on the field. I can see some great things up in the box. And I was like, RC, you're way ahead of me, man. So no, he was excited for the opportunity. He's done a great job with some preseason, just some in-season opponent scout as we go through. He does a great job with our players, too, meeting with them one-on-one. Even if we're stuck in meetings and stuff, he can talk to them just about life and just being someone that they can come to and just talk life with. And he does a great job with our staff, keeping us up to date on what's going on. So we'll be excited to elevate him so now he can be able to coach football with our guys. He can be able to do drills on the field and be able to be on the box, and he's going to be a huge asset.
Just getting the text that Jeremiah wanted to meet with you, or the call, or whatever it was, and then just going to meet with him and finding out what was happening with Andy and yourself, and just what was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those moments, BJ, that you're obviously never ready for. You know, in our profession, it's one thing to the next. I mean, 9 o'clock, meeting with the recruit, 9:30, meeting one of our current players, and you're just kind of going through your day. And Charlotte comes up to me and says, this is going to happen. You're going to meet with JD, and kind of things just went from there. And just kind of handled the process as it came to me. It was, this is what it is. JD asked me if I wanted to be the interim head coach, and I said absolutely yes. And just went through the process from there. Obviously, a lot of emotions going through it, emotions for Andy, his family, for our players, their families, their parents reaching out to me. So it was an emotional day because this is, it's the hard part of the business of college football. But tried to do a good job with our players, with our coaches, just making sure we all focus on the fact of all we can control is 1-0. That's all we got.
I know it's been a whirlwind 24 hours. Have you got a chance to talk to Andy yet, and if so, like, what's his mood been like?
Yeah, well, we obviously talked yesterday as he was leaving, and it wasn't a long conversation, but just, hey man, I love you. If I can ever do anything for you, let me know. And he really said the same to me. I think a lot of it right now is just obviously when you go through something like this that changes the dynamic, changes a lot of different things. We'll have more conversation in the future, but that's about where we're at. I texted him yesterday, just praying for you, brother. Let me know if you can do anything, and that's where we're at.
Did he address the team yesterday?
He did.
The transfer portal is obviously super real, and it doesn't make your life any easier here for however long you're in the interim role. How do you navigate that right now and encourage maybe some fluidity and conversation with your players?
Obviously, the biggest point is keeping our players here to finish this strong. And so that was the biggest message that I had to the team yesterday was we're crazy to sit here and think that that's not going on for our players. Every single one of them. And they're getting hit up by whoever, trainers, high school coaches, whoever it might be. That's just the reality of what it is right now. And so my biggest message to them once we talked about the seniors and finishing is let's walk that path together, but we don't need to walk that path right now. We've got 2 games promised to us right now. Let's finish those. And then whenever this season's done, I told them, I will walk that path with you. If there's a better opportunity because of X, Y, and Z, and we look at it and you need to, but finish this. We talk about that. Grown men finish what they start. We're going to do this together. We're going to finish. And so that was the big message to the guys. Does that mean that everybody left here and was 100% locked? No, there's going to be, it's a constant process. It's going to be a constant circling of the wagons to keep our guys focused on what's at hand because they're being, for lack of better words, attacked from a lot of different angles right now. That's what the reality is. And I love this group. I love these kids. And so the biggest thing I asked of them, and I'll ask them the same thing tomorrow, the same thing I'm asking for our coaches is there's a lot of questions and a lot of bridges we're all going to have to cross here soon. Let's finish this together. That's all we can control. Those things, we're going to have to answer those. You're going to have to answer about the transfer and if you stay, if you go, based on a lot of different circumstances. But a lot of those aren't in place yet. And so that was the biggest thing I asked our team. And obviously there's certain individuals that are probably getting hit more than others. You guys are probably very aware of that. But that was the biggest thing I asked them is let's finish this together. Let's go 1-0. And in 2 weeks, we'll look up and see where we're at. And we'll have a lot more clarity on what's the best decision for you.
What was Andy's message to the team yesterday? What did he say to the boys?
He just, said thank you for the opportunity, just for the hard work they've put in. And I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but he did a great job addressing the team and did it with a lot of class.
In terms of will you be involved at all in the offense, or are you just going to let Bush run that, or how is that going to work?
Yeah, Bush is going to do a great job with the offense. I'm just excited to be able to do it together. Well, obviously the biggest thing for us, me, him, Coach Demo, special teams, is just like we're trying to do is let's win these games together. How are we using our best personnel, offense, defense, special teams, and when we take the field on Saturday, that's going to be the biggest thing for me. is we're going to do this together. We're going to have a lot of energy. We're going to have fun doing it, and we're going to hang our hat on that, and our guys are going to play fast.
How will those logistics work? Will you start attending 1 or 2 offensive meetings a week? Will you dabble in practice with the offense? Logistically, how are you going to spend that time?
Logistically, right now, I'm going to primarily be in the defensive staff, especially calling it these last couple games, and just making sure we're on the same page. But at practice, and that was a big thing I talked to these staff, I'm going to be around everybody because I want to be. I want to be around Taylor Green. I want to be around Garrett Kern. I want to be around these guys bringing energy and excitement to practice because we got a great defensive staff. I trust them. I know on either side of it, Coach Hamdan's going to do a great job with the offense. It's more me just trying to continue to come around these coaches, come around these players, love on them, build into them, infuse the energy to finish strong. And that's going to be the biggest focus for me. Not whittling in regards to changing things schematically on any of the 3 phases because we're in rhythm of who we are. We know who we are schematically in those 3 phases. To me, it's all about the energy and the enthusiasm, finishes strong, and making sure our players play fast and confident.
Any update on Maddox and whether that's a season-ending injury?
Right now, he's going to be out for the foreseeable future. He really is. We're still looking into it from our medical staff to exactly what that looks like, but he's going to be out for the foreseeable future. We're all about Taylor Green.
You got here in 2017. You already served as the interim head coach twice. Obviously, there's a few things that can shake a program like the dismissal or a head coach leaving a program. What do you think it is about you that has earned the trust of 2 athletic directors to take over a program during times of tragedy, is too strong of a word, but times where a program's been shook?
Yeah, it's a good question, Jay. I mean, at the end of the day, humbled by the fact that I'm in this position, humbled by the fact when it happened the first time, and obviously even more now going through it. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know if it's me being so great by any means. I do know that I love these players. Everything I do is about them. Point blank, period, end of story. And that is my heart for them. That's why I come to work every day. That's why I'm still here, is because of these kids, because of this place, this community. And I've said this before, me and my wife had no connection to Boise, Idaho 7 years ago, and this is home for us now. This place, this community, and these players have a piece of my heart that I'll never have back, never want back. And I think just over the years, hopefully in my actions and how I'm around them, how I coach them, how I'm around the staff, that shows itself. That would be my biggest answer to that, Jay. Like I said, it's definitely not something that I've done that I'm saying, well, this is why. I love these kids, and that's what I hang my hat on, is my care for them.
How quickly do you flip the page? I mean, are you guys already into Utah State, and how do you kind of get over this cloud, hurdle, whatever you want to call it?
Oh yeah, I mean, and like I said, we got a great staff. We got great players. I mean, our players are already up there watching Utah State film last night into this morning. I know both sides of the ball are grinding on Utah State because that's what's next. That's what's next. Not Air Force, not bowl game, not championship game, and we're doing a great job flipping the page. Yeah, things are going to look different. There's a lot of things throughout the day we got to handle. Trying to make sure we're around our players a lot in this time. Trying to look at the schedule to make sure, okay, how can we make sure our guys are fresh? Can we be around them more? Because we need to be. Because they're getting hit from a lot of different angles, at home, different places, and we need to be. We need to be present for them. But our staff's done a great job flipping the page, getting into the offensive, defensive meetings, making sure we got the best plan for the team we have, for our players, to be able to go win on Saturday afternoon. And that's the focus of our staff. That's the focus of our players. And then whatever happens after we play Utah State, we're going to do the same when it's time to play Air Force.
So was there anything where you said, okay, I'm changing that right away, or is it pretty much status quo in terms of how things have been done around here?
With having 2 weeks promised to us less than the season, BJ, we're not making by any means any wholesale changes. There's a couple things that I know I'm passionate about that we'll make little tweaks. Not going to get into a lot of those here, but there's a couple things that we'll tweak from practice to some different things, just that I feel passionate about. That I'm excited to do. But there's not going to be wholesale changes.
What are your thoughts on Utah State?
Always impressed with who they have from an athletic standpoint and how they use them, offense and defensively. We've played them, obviously, Coach Anderson, over the past really 3 years. It's going to be the third season we play him now with him being there. How they're able to, just speaking from their offense perspective right now, they're able to go so fast offensively and still be very sound. They've done a great job this year, also being extremely productive. I think they're top 20 in the nation in scoring. I believe they're top 15 or so in yards too. So an offense like that, not only do you have to deal with the speed on the field, the tailbacks, the receivers they have, you got to be able to line up at a drop of a dime. You got to be able to get calls from the sideline, get lined up, and then they do a good job using all 53 1/3 of the space on the field. They will put a receiver on the sideline to one side and a receiver all the way on the sideline the other side, so they just create a lot of space issues, especially with the athletes they have. They've done a great job recruiting. You got to deal with the space. And so not only is it from a pass game standpoint, they create a lot of run-pass conflict because of the space you got to deal with. So have always had a lot of respect to what they do offensively. And obviously this year they've been able to put a ton of points on the board and a ton of yards. And they're keeping a lot of defenses on their heels.
Do you expect Ashton to be available this weekend?
I know he's done a great job in the training room, and we're excited to get him out on the practice field this week, able to get some Indy in. And I know he's excited to be ready to play. So we'll work through it as the week goes.
What can Jake Ripp add to the linebacker group?
Yeah, right now, obviously, and you guys saw on Saturday, we're banged up at linebacker. DJ got banged up in the game. Andrew Simpson right now is dealing, has a broken hand, and he was fighting through a lot of stuff. And so we're able to play Jake Ripp and Chase Martin, that are two freshmen. And it was exciting to see those guys get in there. They made some freshman mistakes, which we're going to constantly be working at. But both those guys did a great job stepping in and playing a ton of minutes on the blue. Because those game reps are there's nothing better than those to help you grow, to help you mature as a football player. And both of them did a good job. So obviously a big week for both those guys in regards to the game plan, making sure they're ready to go. And like to BJ's question, especially with an offense that goes as tempo and as fast as Utah State does, you got to be on point with your alignments and your keys, or you're going to be behind the snap from Jump Street. So it's a big thing for our whole defense.
At the beginning of the season, we were kind of questioning the depth at linebacker, who's going to play besides DJ, and obviously Marco and Andrew have stepped up, and now again guys, even further behind them to kind of fill in. Just how has the development of that group just been this season, and just how comfortable are you now with the depth that you have there?
Yeah, proud of how those guys have developed. And I think more importantly, how they've grown over the season. And like I've told you guys before, we put a lot on those linebackers. They're involved in every part of the defense in regards to the front, to the back end. And going into the season, obviously DJ Schramm really being the main one that was a returner. Him getting banged up earlier in the year. Marco doing a great job stepping in for him. Now Marco's injured. He's out. Andrew Simpson's really coming to his own as the year goes. Andrew Simpson gets banged up. Other guys step up. So that group's done a good job, just next man up mentality, and our whole defense has too. Just like every team across the country at this point in the season, it's all about your depth. And maybe that's not too deep, maybe it's 1.5. And maybe there's a guy that has to know maybe 2, maybe even 3 positions, because that's just where you're at from a depth standpoint. And so hats off to our group in regards to being able to have a next man up mentality. And it's been the same in the front, same with the edges, same in the back end. And so these game reps these young guys have had are vital. And obviously we got to continue to pull on those as we finish this strong.
What happened in the second half? What clicked Saturday night? And the bigger picture, that's happened before in terms of one good first half or one bad second half, and then it changes. And Andy loved to use the word consistency and inconsistency. So
yeah.
What happened Saturday night, and how is your defense? How can it be more consistent for an entire 4 quarters?
No question, which we need it to be. Starting the game, going into the game, they were doing some stuff different schematically than we had prepared for. They had a couple guys that didn't play in the game that they had shown on film that played, which changed some of the schematic stuff. And then for our guys, just playing fast and consistent. There was like we talked about before, there was a lot of tackling in that first half, especially on the quarterback, that guys are just out there trying to not make mistakes instead of just trusting their leverage, attacking to make a play, not scared to miss one. And just being able to start games and being more consistent, your point, we have to. And we've started games consistently and maybe haven't finished them. And so it's being able to put a full game together to where, especially defensively, you have to do it together. It has to be all 11. It can't be one guy not doing his job like we talk about every week, because if someone's not setting the shoot for the rest of the defenders, then all the angles and pursuit and the tackling angles and the fits are going to be off. And so the consistency to start games from one, obviously schematically, to make sure our guys are clear on, okay, whatever an offense can watch something Patrick Mahomes does on Sunday, and we might be defending it on Saturday night, right? That's just this reality of college football. And that's across the board. And so our guys got to be able to read their keys, react, and then in those moments just make those tackles, which a lot of those first couple touchdown drives came to a lack of doing our job and just making tackles in those critical moments. We obviously got some of that stuff cleaned up and had a better second half. Now we can't just play consistent one half of football. We got to put a full game together.
Ahmed now ranks second in the Mountain West in sacks. What do you think about his play lately and what he is becoming as a pass rusher?
So proud of Ahmed. I mean, and guys, you talk about a guy that just tirelessly works, loves this program. And he is that guy. When I talk about guys who want to finish strong, he's the guy that will call me, check in with me, like, whatever you need, we're finishing this thing. That's who he is. And he does that in how he trains. He does that in how he practices. And I'm just so proud of him that now it's showing up in production on the field. And his best football is in front of him. And he's a guy that I love coaching. I love being around. His teammates love being around him because you don't need to guess if Ahmed's going to show up and be ready to work and be ready to do his job. There's a lot of things for him. He's a football player that he's going to consistently work to grow and even be better. And that's the exciting part for us is his best football is in front of him.
I know with a guy like Andrew, some of the stuff that he plays that he makes, it might be kind of set up for him by other selfless humans on the defensive line and things like that. But I mean, how has he made the jump to being kind of a star on your defense? I mean, we talked about the progress, his development, but it seems like he's made that jump now.
He has done a really good job, and especially the past month. Early on the season, he was able to make some splash plays, but maybe not as consistent as we need him to be, and he knew that, and he was excited to grow in that. But really the past month to 5 weeks, the games we played with the bye week obviously in there, he's played well. He's played productive. He's been on the attack, and you guys obviously can see how much we're able to move him around and put him in different situations, which not only takes a skill set, it also takes the mental aptitude to know all those different looks and the different situations we're going to put him in. And he's done a really good job. But in that situation, I give DJ Schramm a ton of credit for that whole room. I mean, you talk about a guy, and I've said this before, I don't need to tell them what to do in regards to prep and how to get ready for practice. I just say, hey, all you guys watch DJ. Watch DJ Schramm because it's an open book test in regards to what it takes to play linebacker here. And Drew's stepped up a lot in that way, especially with Marco being out, him having to play pretty much the whole game a lot of these weeks. He's done a good job, and he's banged up right now. He's fighting his tail off in the training room to continue to make plays and be productive on the field because we need him.
Will Marco be back, or do you have any update on him too?
Right now, Marco's also going to be out for the foreseeable future. Right now, we're working to get exact clarity on how many weeks it's going to be, but he won't be playing this weekend.
A big breakout game for Prince at wide receiver last week. How do you just get him to kind of springboard off that and to a big finish to the year and possibly a big career?
No doubt. I mean, obviously think the world of Prince, and I know Bush is going to hit it with you guys. And you talk about a young man that obviously came here in January, a freshman, and what he's done from spring ball to fall camp and kind of bide his time, especially early on in the season, to coming on a big stage. I mean, some of the catches he had last weekend watching from the box those are big-time catches now. I'm talking freshman or you're a senior, it doesn't matter. Those are big-time catches. And for him being able to use that to even build more confidence to make even more plays this weekend and going forward is going to be huge, not only for him, but for our team.
How about Shea, too? Shea's starting to play some pretty good ball, too. He's got this, you look into his eyes on game day, and he seems to just kind of go into this locked-in place where not much distracts him, I guess.
Yeah.
What is it about him and the way he's playing right now?
You talk about a young man that's grown a ton this season as well, Jay. I mean, that's Shea Oladipo. And a guy that you can coach, you can hold to a high standard, that's him. And similar to some other positions we're talking about, our nickel position, which he plays, we put a ton on that position. He's got to be able to blitz like a linebacker, cover like a DB, have instincts like a safety in one. And it's a lot. And for a young man that came into this season having to do that, there was a lot of growth that needed to happen early on in the season. We put a lot on him. And he hasn't shied away from it. He hasn't. He's taken the coaching. He's worked his tail off to grow in it, and he has. And his best football is in front of him. I think he's played some of his best football as the weeks have gone on, and going to need him to do the same this weekend, especially with the space and how we're going to be attacked from Utah State. We need a big weekend from 23. And he's excited to put the work in. Talking to him last night, he can't wait to get on the practice field tomorrow and work to earn that right.
This might be a dumb question, but there's a lot of social media speculation that Eric McAllister could potentially come back now that Andy's gone. Is there any? Is that possible, or any thought of that? Or?
We've, as a staff, we've heard that, kind of working through it with our staff right now to what's the best possible move and the best thing for our team.
Does he want to come back?
That's what we've heard.
What have you had a talk with Taylor Green? Obviously, he's been through kind of a little bit this season with the emotional roller coaster of starting, not starting, snap count decreasing, increasing. Have you talked with Taylor since this news came out?
I did. I talked to Taylor last night on the phone. He's in our leadership group. I talked to him this morning. Think the world of Taylor Green. And I'm not talking even as a quarterback of this football team, just as a young man. And I know Bush would say the same. You talk about a young man that comes to work every day, and things have not gone the way he's wanted to this year. And a guy that still shows up to work every day, cheers on his teammates. When something goes well for the offense and Taylor Green's not, and let's say Mad Dog makes a play, I look right to the sideline to see Taylor Green's reaction. You will not see someone more excited for his teammates than number 10. And that goes a long way, not only to who he is as a football player, but just who he is as a young man. And that, to me, speaks volumes of who he is and who he's going to be off the field in life. And, I know Bush would say the same thing. His best football is in front of him, and I'm fired up for him this weekend. I told him the same thing last night, told him the same thing this morning. I think Taylor Green's going to have a great Saturday night. He's going to lead this team, lead this offense, and help lead this whole team, and he's going to, and we're going to empower him to.
How are you preparing him to take on that full responsibility?
Yeah, he's got it in him. He's always had it in him. And I know we're excited to build that into him as the week goes and for him to have the confidence. And I know Bush is doing a great job with the game plan and the plays for him to where he is extremely confident. Because when he's confident, he goes out there and executes. Obviously, we've seen what that looks like. We've seen how explosive he can be throwing the ball, obviously, with his legs. And so that's going to be a big part, I know, for the offensive staff and us looking at, okay, how can we put him in the best possible situation? Because he's going to play well. He's going to be confident. And that's going to help our team play well together. And obviously that goes from practice to the game. And so the biggest thing for us with him is let's have our best Tuesday practice we've ever had.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Vince.
Thanks, guys.
Now Bush Hamdan.
What is up, guys?
Questions for Bush?
How do things change, I guess, with the change in head coach for you as the offensive coordinator?
Obviously not a huge change from a role standpoint of what the responsibilities are. Just certainly navigating over the last week or two, just the amount of moving parts, if you will. Obviously, Andy means a lot to me and my family, giving me this opportunity and what he's done for this university. So you try to take the emotions out of it as much as you can, certainly for the remainder of these 2 weeks, and then circle back and reflect on things.
You've been to a lot of programs, a lot of teams, a lot of different levels and experiences, and you're not going to go into detail about what happened over the last 36 hours, but how would you describe it?
Yeah, every season is unique, if you will. And maybe Spencer touched on this. I think we had a breakfast at about 9:30 with recruits, and naturally, about an hour later, start getting hit up by some national media on what's going on. And so I think you reflect on that, you do, and it always starts obviously with the players. It starts with your wife, your kids during these times. Obviously, we sign up for it, but just calming everybody down and understanding there's a plan in place and going from there.
You said you were hit up by national media. Was that before or after Jeramiah talked to you?
Certainly after, but it's just amazing nowadays. I mean, you guys probably know it more than anybody how fast those things happen. So I think it's just, coming off a big win like that. And I do want to say, I'm super appreciative of our players. And that's a game where certainly there were some distractions. We know offensively that week to go play the way they did is a testament to them. And, coming off that, that's obviously something hard to deal with.
Spencer, clarified that he's leaving the offense up to you. Do you think that is that any more added freedom or less input than before? Does anything kind of change with that type of communication?
Yeah, not really, Jay. I mean, I think the biggest thing is just, again, a lot of those conversations of what the plan is in place of how we're going to win this game. I think Utah State obviously poses a lot of issues, both offensively and defensively. And so just those communications, again, are so critical, which were there when Andy was in place, of just offensive, defensive, special teams, of putting a plan together on how to win the game.
Spencer just mentioned that, you know, you guys have heard that Eric might be wanting to come back now. How willing would you be to take him back?
You know, I haven't given it a ton of thought yet. I haven't had that conversation with Eric fully. You know, I think it's ultimately going to be his decision, and that being Coach Danielson's and the team's decision. But I think we'll address it if it gets to that point.
Spencer said that Ashton seems like he's excited and confident towards working back. What have you seen out of Ashton these last couple of weeks as he hasn't been able to play? And do you anticipate him being back out on the field for you guys?
Yeah, you know, I think he's working hard to get back. He certainly is. That guy's a football player, so I don't think it matters what the situation is. I think it's tough for him to watch and be on the sidelines, if you will. And so, you guys know what I think of him and how I felt about him from the day I got here. And certainly, I think it'd be a huge lift for this team. I think it'd be a huge lift for him, for us to get him back.
I mean, how do you think he played coming in the other day, and just now to not have to worry about looking over to the sideline to see if he's coming in or out every play? You know, how do you expect him to play here down the stretch?
Yeah, I expect him to play at an extremely high level. I mean, again, I think I've been pretty candid in saying he has not been in easy positions, and certainly I understand that. But, you know, of my years of doing this and working with quarterbacks, I'm not sure there'll be a guy that I'm more proud of. We offensively feel we've had some moving parts and had to do what we've done to put ourselves in position to win football games. And unfortunately for him, it hasn't been very consistent. But I just think about that game. I think, again, about him coming in a number 2 role and how he played, the focus you have to have throughout the week to be able to play in those kind of moments. And I'm just extremely proud of him.
Bush, the emotions you felt when you saw Maddox go down, and more importantly, how does that change the direction of what you were trying to build with this football team and the momentum that you seem to certainly have?
Yeah, I think your heart goes out to a guy like Maddox. Again, I think he had one offer, you know, coming out of high school, which was New Mexico. And for him to get that opportunity to go and play how he's played, in my opinion, this whole year, you know, he's kind of got this underdog tail to him, if you will, and he gets in there and he plays at such a high level. So that's my initial reaction, you know, with his dad being there, his mom being there, going through that experience. But everything happens for a reason. I know he'll battle back. I'm extremely thankful that we were able to get him the experience he got this year, and I know what that kid's all about. So.
How great was it seeing Prince get the production that he got, you know, finally catching those deep balls we've been hearing about so much?
Yeah, it was huge. I think for like 3 weeks I was getting calls from a Bahamas number, and I thought it was some like vacation cruise line, so I never picked up. And then I finally realized it was his dad. So I always think about that for him. I know how excited his family is to see that success. But again, anytime we've talked about that throughout the course of the year, where sometimes it just takes one play, you know, 1 or 2 plays to get that confidence level where you need to get to. Obviously, he's got the ability, but we put a lot on him last week as we did Austin Bolt and a lot of those receivers to step up, and I'm really proud of that group.
Maybe Austin Bolt, what did you think of it, the way he played, and how cool was that touchdown?
Awesome. I mean, goosebumps. You know, I think there's the part of the player, and you're with them on the day-to-day, but then there's the person side of it. Right, when you go through the injuries he's gone through, we've all kind of been there maybe as athletes where we've sat there and wondered, you know, is this worth it? You know, how's this thing going to go? And so I think for him, certainly just that first play he made on that touchdown, for him to have that experience that he had is just a testament to his hard work.
Caden Dudley's kind of impact on your offense. When you saw on that touchdown,
Yeah.
he goes in motion, 4 guys move, and
Yeah.
leaves the deep middle open. And on the Taylor Green touchdown run, I mean, he really blocked his butt off there to help Taylor get into the end zone. But just his overall play, and not even when he touches the ball either.
Yeah, I think there's so many guys on this team that are somewhat of unsung heroes, if you will. You know, that at times your role may never be exactly what you want it to be, but when you buy in and you do what's asked of you, your role expands. And I think he's certainly one of those guys. I mean, you look at, again, our running back situation this year. Right now, we think KD's probably the most explosive guy we've got on the offense. And so maybe it starts with going, okay, how are we going to get him a couple touches 3-4 weeks ago to now being a guy we're trying to feature. So, again, it's just a testament to the preparation, regardless of what your situation is, because those plays are made long before the week of the game, if that makes sense.
So what stuff he's doing, maybe what you envisioned when you had both George and Ashton in terms of some of the motion and stuff that you're doing with him?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think you always, it's an offensive job to create space, and I think that's, certainly with having the backs we have and having Dudley in there, he allows us to stretch the field both horizontally and vertically, and so that's something we always think about when we're putting a plan together, and he's been a huge asset for us.
Any disappointment on your side that you weren't named the interim coach?
No. I mean, I think, I have so much respect for Spencer, and I think, he will be a head coach. I think everybody here knows that, whether that means in a couple months or a couple years. And he's done so much for this university, been here for about 6 years, and I think that's tremendous. And look forward for the opportunity to run a program one day, and when it comes, I'll be ready, but certainly happy for him.
I mean, you don't necessarily know your future after these next few weeks, Bush. What are these next 3 weeks going to be look like? I mean, you could be here, you could not be. Like, how do you just approach it?
Yeah, I think this is probably the third time I've been through something like this in season, and so I just again, so much of it is for the players, for our families. But you just kind of keep your head down. You finish what you start and see what happens after that. Really, it is. And I think, whether you've worried about previous jobs, it happened to us at Maryland. It happened to me at Arkansas State. Sometimes you end up in tough situations, but you just got to push through. Obviously, this one's a little bit harder, just what this place means to me. But there's a reason I'm here, and it's been a blessing.
A lot of your offensive pieces likely are very coveted throughout other teams' plans, I guess, or whatnot. So with the transfer portal open, what do you do to kind of navigate that and encourage an open dialogue with your players?
Yeah, I think have those open discussions. There will be zero surprises, if you will, after this season. I think you really got to be there for these kids, and I don't know how many people with their best interest are necessarily in the decision-making process. And there's a lot to think about. There is. I think across the board, we've had players from this program leave and end up maybe not playing as much and so on and so forth into my time at Missouri. So I think, open and honest with them. Obviously, the NIL piece of it is something they have to think about for sure, but there's also risk factor in a lot of it as well. It's when you know a town, you know what your role is, you know a city and communities behind you, that's worth a lot. And so I think it's just having those open discussions are really critical.
How important is it to make these final couple of weeks fun, whether it be, dancing, maybe wearing jewelry, whatever a player does to make this game fun? How important will that be?
Well, I think energy is always the number one thing. As we all know, nothing great in life is accomplished without great energy. And you hope that the kids have fun, but they'll certainly also feel the focus and the execution that can come with it. And I think both of those can coexist. And so I think certainly, I know that'll be big with this group, making sure the energy is there to go play and execute at a high level, which again, I just was proud of the group this past week with the distractions that were there to go out and execute the way they did speaks volumes to them.
When we talk about Taylor, I do feel like over the season he has, became much more intentional with certain things. You probably wanted to see him grow and work on. He made some big-time throws last week. He's running, behind his pads at times now. Where have you seen like the biggest growth and development in his game, during the season?
Yeah, I think, from a preparation standpoint, he continues to just build and build and build. And I think everybody wants, a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old to be a final product as a sophomore in college, but it's not always that. And again, I think so highly of him, I feel like maybe I went through a lot when I was in college, and it's probably a third of what he's gone through just this season alone. And so that's going to be with him for the rest of his career, his resiliency. And I just, again, he is 1,000% about what this place is about and 1,000% about this community. And I think we're seeing that right now.
He said after the game, as a competitor, like, he'd be lying if it didn't, like, fire him up that he did lose his starting quarterback job. So how did that communication and that decision go down, Bush?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it too is you guys probably talking to him about some of it. I just, him and I talk probably every night for about 30 minutes, just navigating this whole thing. And I think he's a unique guy in this because we'll look back on this and certainly I want 90% of the blame to come right at me for maybe this year, but I do want the self-reflection on his part too. And I think, I'm hoping it's at Boise State. And as we know, whatever happens, what he's gone through this year will propel him for the future in college, for his NFL career. And I just think, I think the world of him, as you guys know.
Just to kind of clarify, I know it's kind of like different weeks, but the two QBs and going back and forth with the guys, was that something that it was essentially was your decision, or was that something that Andy had been pushing for? Would that have continued if Maddox hadn't gotten hurt? Or?
No, that was something that was certainly, in the discussions between Andy and I, and some of it was play style. To be quite honest with you, there were certain times where we felt like we had to go fast and score points in certain situations that we put ourselves into, and again, I just go back to Maddox's performance against UCF and what he did in that last drive. Then you go to Memphis and he scores 2 touchdowns in the span of 3 minutes. Maddox kind of played himself into that role a little bit, and certainly wasn't ideal. But again, I do look at our consistency in production and think we needed both of those guys to do what we did.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Appreciate you guys. All right, y'all. Appreciate you guys.
I'll send out our